Hi everybody, and welcome to the first official day of the fall quarter at Eastern Oregon University. Whether you're just taking classes online or you're taking a mix of courses online and face-to-face, I'm really glad to hear that you are taking this course, and I hope that we have some great weeks ahead. So the purpose of this video is to provide kind of an overview of what I'm expecting out of the first week of classes, a little bit of a preview of the course, and to go over some of the content that is going to be covered for this week too. Each week on Monday, you can expect me to upload a video where I answer any major questions that students have had. I give a preview of the content that you'll be looking over for that week, and to provide some course reminders and updates for you all as well. So you can also get in touch with me through my Zoom office hours. Those are from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And get in touch with me through email as well if you need to. So the first thing that I want to direct you to is to the front page of Canvas. If you've taken a look at the front page of Canvas, you'll notice that there are several links at the top that are designed to help you out. The syllabus is on there. Think of the syllabus as the instruction manual for the course that goes over the main policies, assignments, expectations, and so on. In addition to that, you'll also see the schedule for the course too. And then under that, you'll see the full grid of the schedule. I really recommend using that schedule grid that's on the front page of Canvas to help you out week to week in terms of knowing what to do, what readings to complete, and so on. So if you look at that grid, you'll notice that for the first week of the course, I'm asking you to complete an introduction activity on Canvas. Several of you have already completed that one, but I'm just asking you to introduce yourself and reply to a couple other folks. In addition to that, you'll notice that there's a syllabus and chapter 1 quiz. So all of the quizzes are open note, open book, and no time limit. So I'd like you to look through the first chapter of JANT. The PDF of the first chapter is available for you to access on Canvas. And once you've done that and read through the syllabus, complete the quiz. And then the last thing that I'm asking you to do is to complete a short anonymous survey. Since this is a writing intensive course, this survey is designed to help me out to get a sense of what you might need some additional support and help with on the writing front. So complete those 3 things by this Friday. For the JANT textbook, again, I have the PDF of the first chapter available to you, but with the second week, I will be asking you to get your own copy. The easiest way to do this is to rent an ebook on Amazon, although you can also purchase some used copies of the book as well. So do that and then complete those activities by this Friday. Each week, you can expect to have a quiz, some type of activity on Canvas, and a reading assignment that you'll complete by that Friday. And then there'll also be some larger assignments that you'll be completing over the course of the quarter as well. So some of those assignments include an online study discussion where I'll be putting you into groups and on Canvas asking you to participate in a text discussion. In addition to that, there'll be a midterm exam that again is open note, open book, and taken through Canvas. And then there also will be a couple other major writing assignments, including a term paper. The term paper is designed to look at a major example of conflict and use the ideas developed from the course. And then you'll complete a final draft of that term paper at the end of the quarter that will include some substantial revisions and changes. So that assignment and its description is listed on Canvas. As we get closer to that assignment, I'll be posting a more detailed rubric as well. And then there is an extra credit opportunity that you'll be able to complete toward the end of the quarter that will add 20 points or 2% on to the end of your final grade. So again, as an online course, I want you to be able to complete things at your own pace. So you should expect Friday as the deadline for each week of assignments, but any time during that week is your chance to complete those things. In addition to that, I wanted to direct you toward some additional kind of resources and things to help you out. So you'll be able to see on Canvas that there's that Zoom link, schedule, and so on to help you out. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about this week and about the main first chapter of JANT that gets into the role of conflict and communication. So the first thing that comes to mind when a lot of us think about conflict is about fighting, about arguing, about emotions, people not feeling very good, and so on. We've seen this a lot in the context of COVID-19, where people might have significant social or political differences surrounding this topic and get into a lot of heated fights and arguments that can make us feel like we're from totally different planets. So it's normal for us to think about conflict in a negative way. It's stressful. It takes a lot out of us. It kicks in our adrenaline and our fight or flight response. But conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, conflict can oftentimes be a way that we can better empathize, relate to each other, and understand one another. In fact, it's actually been found in some studies that couples who do get into fights don't necessarily get violent or superheated, but do get into arguments and discussions where they disagree, might have a more healthy relationship because each party feels like they've been able to express their concerns and that they can openly communicate rather than bottling in what they might be feeling. So conflict is not necessarily a bad thing. Conflict management is the title of the course and is really different from the idea of conflict resolution. So in a lot of cultures, such as in the United States, we oftentimes have a drive toward conflict resolution. Because we don't like getting into fights or arguments with other people, we seek to end those and close those off as soon as possible. But what happens is that if we really rush to end the conflict without hearing out the perspectives and concerns that people have, then a lot of these fears are going to linger, and maybe the conflict will come back even worse later. So in a lot of cultures, conflict is being seen as this ongoing process and discussion. It's not something that we can easily resolve right away most of the time. So conflict management is less about ending a conflict as soon as possible, but instead about how we can maintain a respectful and positive and engaging conflict as it's happening. So conflict management is definitely a way for us to think about the kind of active conflicts that we're engaging in. And that's important because whether we're talking with our friends or our family, we're in the office and working, or anything else, we're going to run into conflict. And understanding how to deal with and manage conflict is really important. So conflict, kind of as a definition, right, gets into the idea that there are kind of scarce resources. We are trying to deal with how there's competing views and perspectives on something, right? And in the context of conflict, there's some fundamental disagreement. So conflict can be something like a war. We're not going to really get into that for this course, but we are going to get into verbal conflicts, arguments, disagreements, debates, and so on. Conflict fundamentally suggests that we're engaged with one another. We care about each other's opinions, our goals and interests, and so on. That there are goals that we have with somebody else that are incompatible. If we're applying to a job and another person is applying to the exact same job, there is at least some level of conflict happening there. So conflict management is how we avoid the negative outcomes, the hurt feelings, and problems that people feel, and instead try to emphasize the positive things that can come out from conflict. We can understand each other better, we can better develop solutions, and so on. For instance, a lot of couples counselors are great at conflict management because they allow the couple to talk about their concerns and figure out constructive ways to manage disagreements that they might have in the future. So another really important element of conflict is this idea of groupthink. Now, groupthink is a problem that emerges when, because we are conflict avoidant, we don't like getting into arguments, we will prevent a conflict from happening that could make things even better. So a really good example of this is the Bay of Pigs invasion. This is talked about a little bit in your textbook, but under John F. Kennedy's presidency, this was seen as a major foreign policy blunder. We could even look to a more recent example surrounding the execution and rollout of withdrawing troops from Afghanistan as another example of, whether you agree or disagree with it as a policy, the problems that it might have had in execution. So in terms of groupthink, this essentially means that members of a group that make decisions don't feel comfortable speaking out or suggesting a different point of view or expressing what concerns they have. So for instance, a lot of folks in groupthink will just refuse to raise their objections. So for instance, if you're really interested in hiring a candidate for a job, but your coworkers want to hire the other person, maybe you decide, you know what, it's not worth speaking up and raising this concern. I'm just going to follow the group along, right? If you've ever seen the classic film and play 12 Angry Men, it's an example of groupthink too, where people are all set to vote to convict someone, but one person speaks out and says, no, I disagree. I'm going to challenge this groupthink and articulate a view that I know is not the most popular one, but what I fundamentally believe. So dealing with groupthink and preventing groupthink is especially important because it prevents situations like the Bay of Pigs invasion where something goes poorly because people don't speak up. So it's also important for us to think about listening in the context of conflict management, right? Listening involves both sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is about putting yourself, sympathy is more about acknowledging the issues that a person is facing. It's saying, I recognize you're going through a hard time. While empathy is more about, if you've ever read the classic book To Kill a Mockingbird, right? Atticus Finch likes to say, empathy is putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and walking around in them for a while. It's putting yourself in the position of another person. And so listening and engaging in conflict management is going to involve that level of focus and paying attention to the perspectives of other people. The last major thing that you'll notice from this chapter that's good to know is the idea of a study circle. So you can think about a study circle as a group of people that are tasked with talking about and engaging with a difficult conversation. So maybe they're choosing a topic where there is significant disagreement with one another. Or maybe they're choosing a topic where they have a lot of different points of view going in and they're not sure what to do. Either way, a study circle is a chance to have a facilitator that creates a respectful dialogue and discussion where people can freely share their views, including ways that they might disagree with each other. So the big takeaways to get from this chapter is the idea that conflict can be a force for good, that conflict involves things like active listening and support for one another through things such as study circles, and that good conflict management is a way to avoid some of the pitfalls of things such as groupthink. Those are the major things to know going into this chapter, but again, feel free to reach out to me if you've got any questions. Complete those 3 major assignments by this Friday. Otherwise, I hope that you all have a great rest of your week, and I will have my next video up next Monday. See you soon.